Okay. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. This is the regular meeting of the Rancho Mirage City Council for February 4, 2016, as well as for the Library Board, the Housing Authority Board, and the City Council representing the Redevelopment Successor Agency. For our flag salute, Mr. Weil, would you lead us, please?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. My pleasure and honor. If you'll follow me, please. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Roll call, please.
Councilmember Kite?
Here.
Councilmember Townsend?
Here.
Councilmember Smotrich? Here. Mayor Pro Tem Weil?
Here.
And Mayor Hobart?
Here. Well, we have some interesting presentations, the first of which, probably the most interesting, certainly the most attractive. We'd like to call up the contingency from Indio, including Queen Sherazade and her court, who are representing the 2016 Riverside County Fair and National Date Festival. Hello, ladies. If you speak into it, it should be okay. It's not turned on. There we go.
Hello. Okay. I'd like to say hello and thank you to the city of Rancho Mirage for having us here today. My name is Tyler Kelleher, and I'm your Queen Scheherazade of 2016. I'm from the city of Beaumont, where I'm a senior at my local high school, Beaumont High. At my high school, I'm a peer tutor, I'm in Best Buddies, a member of Link Crew, on school site council, student rep on the school board, and I've maintained a GPA of a 4.67. Outside of school, I volunteer at the Cherry Valley Health Center, Carol Soup Kitchen, and with organizations known as MDA. I also work full-time at my local Stater Brothers Market. At night, I attend Mount San Jacinto Community College, where I've been taking classes the past 2 years as a concurrent student working towards an associate's degree in political science that I will be graduating with. After graduation, I hope to attend an East Coast university where I will turn my associate's degree into a double major of political science and history, and then hopefully attend law school.
Hello everyone, my name is Vanessa Gaitán and I am this year's Princess Deniazad. I am currently a senior at Desert Mirage High School all the way in Thermal, California, where I actively participate in our school's varsity cheer squad, theater department, Students Against Destructive Decisions Club, and National Honor Society, while maintaining a 4.51 GPA and being ranked first in my class. On the weekends, I volunteer at my church and at a pregnancy center, and after high school, I aspire to go to UCLA, where I will major in biochemistry, so that way I may pursue a career in research, specifically cancer treatments.
Hi, my name is Selena Andrews, and I am Princess Jasmine for 2016. I'm a senior at Indio High School, and I'm involved in my school's Honors Theater program, where I'm the secretary. I'm also in the choir, where I'm the vice president, and I've played on my school's varsity tennis team for the past 2 years. After high school, I want to attend a Cal State school, where I can major in music with the focus in vocal performance and production, and I also want to minor in political science so I can do work as a human rights activist and travel to third world countries to help those in need.
Now that you know a little about me and my court, we're going to tell you about our awesome fair we have coming up for this year, starting with our promotional days. Starting with opening day, February 12th, we have free admission from 10 a.m. till noon, followed by February the 16th, the following Tuesday, is Canada Day, and also tune into KMIR Day for a special phrase that will get you into the fair for free. Wednesday is our Waste Resource Day. Thursdays is O'Reilly Auto Parts Day. Visit your local O'Reilly Auto Parts for more information. Friday is Fantasy $5 Day, and then Saturday is our JFK Day, which will be our 5K run, and also the first 500 admitted to the fair receive a free pedometer. And most importantly, throughout the entire fair, veterans are admitted free, plus 3 guests.
Now I'm going to be talking a little bit about the entertainment that we have this year. On the 13th of February, we're going to have Banda and Mariachi superstar Ezequiel Peña performing at 7:30 at the Fantasy Springs Concert Pavilion. On the next day, Valentine's Day, get ready to show some love to Trace Atkins, who will be performing at the same location. On the 19th of February, we're going to have Morris Day and the Time with opening act Sheila E. And then on the 20th of February, we're going to have Casey and the Sunshine Band, so get ready to get funky. Finally, to close off all of these festivities, on the 21st at 3 o'clock, we're going to have Pedro Rivera along with Banda Los Incomparables de Tijuana and Mariachi Alma de Jalisco, so don't miss out on all the fun.
And of course, with all these exciting things happening, you can't forget about the food, like the E-Pals and the deep-fried everything and the funnel cakes. And we also have rides like the Zipper and the Fireball and, of course, Ferris wheels. We also have emu chases and camel rides. And on the first Sunday of the fair at the Monster Truck Show, Jay Leno will be there. And we also have a pet adoption happening this year, so you don't want to miss out.
All right, thank you for having us here today. And before I end, I wanted to ask if you guys had any questions. Nope. All right, thank you for having us.
No, I'd like to, I'd merely like to say that when I hear young people like yourselves with your background and your ambition, it makes us very proud. And you ladies are the future of our country, and if you're emblematic of what the future holds, our country is in very good shape. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Not to mention that it's a wonderful tribute to the concept of both beauty and brains being embodied in the same persons. You gals are great. Fantastic. Thank you. Thank you. Well, it's hard to follow that, that's for sure. What I'd like to do at this point is move to item 7, I think it was. Where's the... Which one? Number 11. And move item number 11 up, which is the Division Chief Dan Talbot in the Rancho Mirage Fire Department presentation on pit crew CPR. We'll squeeze them in now so they can get back to putting out fires that have yet to start.
Thank you, Council. I look forward to, I'm very glad of this opportunity. I look forward to hopefully having additional opportunities to provide information to the Council about the exciting things that are currently happening in the fire department. Today, Engineer Henderson, one of our paramedics here in town, is going to be making a presentation concerning pit crew CPR. It's a new method of doing CPR that has shown some significant results. And we're very proud of the work that we're doing, and we're one of the leading agencies in California when it comes to this. So without any further ado, I'm going to turn over to Engineer Henderson.
What's his grade point average?
I beg your pardon?
What's his grade point average?
I was just gonna say it was in the 4.0 when I was in. Yeah, so I was good. And speaking of fried food, we're gonna get into cardiac arrest too as well. So.
For the record, in my senior year, I had 3 periods of shop.
Those gals definitely keep me going on my feet. So thank you, and I'm honored. I work for CAL FIRE Riverside County Fire Department. Now I understand that I have a small window to present this. I also had a demo that I wanted to put together for you guys that would show you pit crew. With our increased call volume, we need to get people back on the streets and serving our citizens. So that's going to come first, which always does. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to talk to the council about increasing our service in 2016. And the way we've been increasing our service is kind of taking things serious. We've been hearing over a period of time in Seattle and thank you, and all different places, North Carolina, Seattle, all these places that have been putting together some wonderful protocols and putting together some things in place that that have been making improvements in cardiac arrest, and their survival rates have been jumping through the roof. It's been getting up into the 62 percentile, and that's what I was tired of hearing. I wanted to bring that 62 percentile here to Riverside County, to our battalion in the 3 cities that I serve, and that's what my goal has been for the past year here in this battalion. My objectives today are going to be the pit crew with high performance CPR. I'm also going to talk about how our monitors, our Zolex monitors that we've recently purchased, aid us in doing great CPR. I'm going to talk about our King Vision, which we're currently trialing right now that we're putting together. It's a video scope camera that we're able to intubate our patients with first pass success, which is very big in the EMS and the medicine career, or in medicine. We're also going to talk about our new drug that we are carrying on board that helps with hemorrhagic trauma. It's called tranexamic acid, TXA. We're also going to be talking about our high-performance trauma care, also along with our EMC, with our stroke and cardiac care that we are very close. We work very close with Eisenhower Medical Center. So here's the PIT crew concept. The PIT crew concept is as fast as possible response. That starts with that. Getting to the house of the patient and starting a organized seat assignment, a role. Everybody has an assigned role. And with that assigned role, we are able to accomplish a lot in that short amount of time, which is your brain, your heart, your body, it's all time sensitive. So with this PIT crew concept, we're able to put people in place and be able to do procedures that are life-saving. Number one, the most simple is going to be CPR, and that's high-performance CPR. These are our assigned roles. In the morning with the crews, we go ahead and go over these assigned roles, and everybody has a spot. Everybody knows their spot. They're able to get into that spot and perform without anybody talking. It's probably the most quiet cardiac arrest you'll ever hear, is because everybody has practiced and trained and know what they need to do in those assigned roles. This is our battalion practicing. We take this very serious. In that time, we have called in, we've done an introduction of the PIT crew. We've practiced, and then we did a one-on-one with each engine company and medic, and we brought them in and did a one-on-one, so everybody had, if they had any questions, we answered it. We practiced, we practiced, we practiced. And that's what we owe to our community. This is us practicing, and everybody is in a role. You can see how everybody is literally doing a procedure without talking. This is another way we practice. We had them look at the monitor. We put numbers on the ground. We've had people get into those assigned roles, and we have high-performance CPR with all the rest of what we do in place in seconds when we get there to the patient's house. Our Zolex monitors are wonderful. They're our new monitors that we have on our rigs. What they allow us to do is, if you can see on the screen, it allows us, the person that's doing CPR, to look at that screen and see how well they're doing CPR. The guys that are trained, they literally talk to each other and say harder, faster, which is the way we need to go. They know that we want less time off the chest. We don't want no more than 10 seconds off the chest. If we're 10 seconds off that chest, it's literally starting the cardiac arrest over again. And that's how important it is. So this right here aids us in looking at our time to rotate, looking at our depth, and looking at the rate that we're performing CPR, which is highly recommended by AHA and highly recommended by anybody in medicine to do proper CPR. This is the CPR improvement. So if you can see the improvement of CPR quality with training and technology, you see the top. And that green line on top is putting us in place of where we need to be. We need to be at that 2 inches of depth, and then we need to be at a certain rate, which is 110 to 120, which is very hard and very taxing on the crews. We actually switch out every 1 minute sometimes when it gets very tiring and fatigued, because we want to do such proper CPR. You can see the top. You can see that blue line. The blue line's going up and down. They're not meeting that green line. That was before training. Guys were doing CPR. They were doing CPR fast, not deep enough. They were doing the best they could, but they had nothing to aid them, nothing to aid them as in visual. Now that we have our monitors, we're able to visually, it aids us. As you can see, the bottom, the blue line going up to the green line is straight across the board. That's CPR we perform now. That's what we're doing. We're perfusing the heart and we're perfusing the brain, and we're allowing these patients not only to get a pulse, but we're allowing them to walk out of the hospital neurologically intact and able to function and be with their families. So that's huge for us. Our goal recently, we started this in last year of April, started the training. We were sitting at that 20 percentile of cardiac arrest, what we call return of spontaneous circulation. Just in that short span, we have increased up to 32. So we increased 12%, but just in that short span, we're now into the 32 percentile. Our goal for 2016, this year, at the end of this year, is to be in the 50 percentile of ROSC and hopefully neurologically intact patients. Things that have aided us through this, things that are helping, all the bells and whistles that we like to call, that actually really work, is our King Vision. We're using a King Vision and we're using a video scope. So technically in the world of medicine, we want to intubate and we want it to be the first time pass by sticking a tube into somebody's lungs and breathing for them. We want to do it the first time without any trauma, without anything, which this aids us. So this right here is helping our guys with difficult airways maintain an airway, also intubate first time pass. So which is great for us, but in other systems, everybody's sitting at that like 67, 61 percentile of success rate for intubation and having to go to something else, as we call a King airway, which is abandoned. It's technically get you to the hospital, it breathes for you, but it's not the ultimate airway. We want the ultimate airway, which is a regular intubation. So what we do is we use this for first time pass. It's going from that 61 to that 91 percentile of first time pass. We're utilizing that to better our service. Also in our service, we're also utilizing a new drug called transemic acid, TXA. We've been working very closely with Desert Regional Medical Center. We've been giving this to our trauma patients that are bleeding, which we call hemorrhagic shock. We've been giving it this within that 3-hour mark, which is proven to increase, or not to increase, but to help morbidity and mortality in our patients after giving this drug. And that's what we take serious. That's another thing that we have on board that we're doing right now. With the TXA, what we're trying to do, and I kind of already covered that, we're literally trying to stabilize our trauma patients from bleeding. We're giving it as fast as possible. We're recognizing with checklists, and we're dripping this drug in, calling our hospital, getting them to a trauma center as fast as possible. With this drug, we're also working very close with Desert Regional Medical Center, and we have an early notification checklist, which all of our guys in this battalion are dead on. They love it. What happens is we deploy this on a trauma. We give early notification, which allows our trauma surgeons to come in and be notified, especially at 3 in the morning, to as fast as possible, because that's what we need for our patients, for our major trauma patients. So with this, they're allowing, we get on scene within those couple of minutes. One person gets on there, they get the injuries, they get the checklist, and we immediately call our trauma center, which strikes up our trauma surgeon, and we have the trauma surgeon there within that 30-minute window of what they like to have in there. Thank you. With this, we're also trying to improve our stroke outcomes too as well, as long as with our heart attack outcomes. We've been working very close with Eisenhower Medical Center and utilizing checklists so we have great communication, and we're lessening our door to drug time for our stroke patients to give that TPA drug. So what we're doing is we're taking it to the next level, and we are having the guys hit certain key points on our patients off scene within 10 minutes and into the hospital, and our outcomes have been fantastic, and it's just not enough. We want better. So what we're doing is we're doing this checklist to improve our response and improve our transports. With that, we have 2 medical directors. We have Dr. Van Stralen and we also have Dr. Dan Davis. Both medical directors are very progressive. They're new. They want better for our community. They want better for our EMS. And with this, I wanted to present this because I wanted to let the council know this is the service that we provide. We are your fire department, and we'll strive to be better and better. But with this, we just need to continue our training, and we need to stay steady, and we need to continue our good communication with our hospital. But I wanted to present this to the council to let you guys know that this is what we're doing to increase your service, and we'll continue to keep going. So you have our promise to always be the best. Thank you.
Thank you. Any questions anybody has?
Dana, I have a question.
Sure, Richard.
How soon does the patient have to be in contact with you to be effective?
For coming in, I'm sorry, can you repeat that?
If you have a heart attack, how soon does that notification have to go to you to be effective so that the patient is going to benefit from the process that you're doing?
Well, it's as fast as possible. The 911 process, if somebody identifies it, you call 911 as fast as possible. Our response time is there to be there as fast as possible, and then for notification to the hospital as fast as possible. So we're looking at a time frame. Hopefully, I would like, I know the hospital's time frame is usually about a 90-minute window from door to drug time, but ours is to get there within 5 minutes, 6 minutes, depending on what we have, and then to treat our patient, get off scene within less than 10 minutes, which we're looking at a total of 16 minutes, have them at the hospital evaluated for either a stroke or a heart attack.
Great, great.
And we also, with our monitors, we also have great capabilities of communicating with our doctors by transmitting our EKGs by Bluetooth, where they get the actual rhythm strip from the patient as fast as possible. They can start making decisions at the hospital to treat the patient before we even get there.
Thanks, very good.
I do have a question. On the stroke, it said if you think you have a stroke, you should take the aspirin right away. Do you agree with this or not agree, or what's your stand?
I'm not a doctor for strokes. And from what I know in my pre-hospital setting, for us, no. We don't know if it's a hemorrhagic stroke or if it's a ischemic stroke. If we give aspirin to a hemorrhagic stroke, we actually can worsen it.
Difference of that.
Hemorrhagic stroke being that they bleed in the brain, or they have an ischemic stroke, meaning they have a clot in the brain. So if I give aspirin to a bleed in the brain, it's going to worsen it. Now, what we're thinking when we're thinking aspirin, we're thinking about the heart attack. And that's when you want to give the aspirin, and that's when they aid you over the phone. If you're having signs and symptoms of a heart attack, which is chest pain, it can be many different things, but when you talk to our dispatchers, they're going to tell you, go ahead and take baby aspirin, and it's okay. And it's mainly for a heart attack is when you're going to be doing the aspirin.
Very good.
Any other questions? Thank you.
Thank you
for your
very
time.
much.
That's great.
Just lastly, that we're hopefully also going to be making a presentation shortly about the other work that we do. And I encourage anyone and everyone, if you are having chest pain of any type, you should call 911. In addition to being able to respond to the patient that is not breathing, their heart isn't circulating, we have many courses of action where we can take to prevent that person from going into what we call full arrest. We do that very well, and I'm hopeful that's going to be a future presentation. And the same thing goes for signs and symptoms of stroke. If you look at the material that comes out from the American Heart Association, they really stress having knowledge of the signs and symptoms of stroke and early access to the emergency medical system. And that's really dependent upon the public, and we're also looking to start a number of public education initiatives and partner with the hospital and other agencies to do that. That's all I have. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank all of you for being here. Okay, we'll move forward with Robert Barrett to talk about music in the park.
Mr. Mayor, council members, your vision of an outdoor public venue where our residents and resort guests can gather to enjoy cultural events is about to be realized. In fact, the Rancho Mirage Community Park's gorgeous new amphitheater will undoubtedly soon be known as the Hollywood Bowl of the Desert. No other facility in our region can match this venue's beauty and technical capabilities. I'm delighted to tell you that a partnership comprised of Marker Broadcasting, Palm Springs Life Magazine, IMG, and Wally's Desert Turtle have joined with the city to produce a 10-week, 13-event concert series that includes most genres of music, from classical to swing and jazz to country western. The program promises to delight every kind of music fan. The series kicks off on Sunday, February 14th, Valentine's Day, at 5 p.m. with country western balladeer Colin Ray performing a 90-minute set offered free to the public. We encourage folks to arrive at the park on Valentine's Day at 4 p.m. for a park dedication ceremony. The Marine Corps Color Guard and Flag Detail will assist the council ceremonially hoist our flags at the new Veterans Memorial. Mayor Hobart will give a short speech, and the council will unveil a plaque commemorating the day. The brief ceremony will end in time for guests and ceremony participants to move into the amphitheater to the Colin Ray concert. 10 of the concerts this season will be free, and 3 classical music concerts will be ticketed. The ticketed concerts include Sarah Chang, one of the world's most outstanding violinists. A second classical concert will feature renowned pianist Jean-Yves Thibodeau and world-famous cellist Nina Kotova. On April 1st at 7 p.m., classical guitarist Angel Romero will be featured. More information and tickets for these events can be secured by going to PalmSpringsLifeFestival.com or by calling 760-325-2333. The free concert schedule includes such favorites as Foghat, Roberta Gambarini, The Spinners, Restless Heart, Chad Hillegas, and Big Bad Voodoo Daddy. 3 Broadway showstopper concert featuring a panoply of Broadway stars backed by David Green's Musical Theater University headquartered at Rancho Mirage High School will feature show tunes that are beloved by all of us. All Rancho Mirage residents have received a brochure about the concert series in the mail. Here's a copy of the brochure. Each of you have one on the dais. Brochures are also available at the library, City Hall, and Rancho Mirage Chamber of Commerce offices. The program can also be reviewed by going online to www.ranchomirage.ca.gov. A series of 6 ads will appear in the Desert Sun. Perhaps you saw the first full-page ad this Sunday in the paper. Radio ads for the series are running continuously on FM stations, Oasis 95.9, Jammin' 99.5, Classical Rock 102.3, and Big 106. Palm Springs Life magazine is promoting the series in their publications. AccuWeather is hinting that El Nino is going to be shy this year, so we're looking forward to a remarkable series of outdoor afternoons and evening concerts. However, the concerts will be rain or shine events. The amphitheater will be open to the public 1 hour before each concert. Wally's Desert Turtle will host 2 bar and snack booths where adult beverages and sophisticated noshes can be purchased. Guests at our concerts need only mention at Wally's or at Blue Ember at the Omni that they just enjoyed a concert in the park to be handed a special discounted menu for a post-concert romantic dinner. Concierge will greet guests as they arrive at the park. Ushers will assist patrons find their seats. Our cops will assist guests park their cars along San Jacinto Drive and the lots of numerous business parks along San Jacinto, as well as in the park. 8 uniformed and certified security guards, along with our code enforcement officers, will ensure that the series comes off without a hitch and the audience enjoys a safe and fun series of memorable concerts. A group of sponsors have helped to make the series happen. Will have their products and services on display around the amphitheater. Going forward, this group may provide significant funding for future series. But this inaugural year, it is the City of Rancho Mirage that is the primary sponsor and organizer for the first series. Kudos to the marketing team comprised of Michael Solangi and Lori LaFond for their hard work and dedication to the success of the upcoming series. We look forward to welcoming residents and guests to the magnificent Rancho Mirage Amphitheater for what promises to be memorable afternoons and evenings of musical enjoyment. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Robert. Are there any questions of Robert? Sounds like a lot of good stuff coming our way. Thank you.
Excellent job, Robert.
Well, they didn't.
Like he didn't make it.
Almost forgot him, huh? He's been sitting in the
Yes, it's
bag
too
all
late
morning.
to resuscitate him. Oh, well. Okay, then we'll move forward now to non-agenda public comment. I have one request. Stan Levinson. Stan?
Thank you, Mayor, members of the council. I appreciate being allowed to speak today and give you a report on the conditions that are in effect at Rancho Mirage Country Club and the perimeter that surrounds it on both Bob Hope and Frank Sinatra. On behalf of most of the homeowners who live there that I communicate with, they wanted me to once again thank you for taking the effort that you did to arrange for the removal of the illegally chain link fence that was 15,300 feet of fencing that kind of made the place look like Dachau or Auschwitz, I think, after a while. Anyway, we've got that done, but we're still in the midst of litigation and trying to pursue our restoration of the facilities there. And since the last time I was here, the golf course owner, the new owner, has sold all of the golf carts, all of the mowing and tractor equipment that's required for landscaping, And all of the furnishings, including tables, chairs, desks, and kitchen equipment for both the snack bar and the main restaurant, the bar stools and dining chairs and everything else that was able to be sold. And so all of that stuff has disappeared. And at the current time, we are holding our monthly board meetings at the Desert Island Country Club. They've been kind enough to allow us to have our annual meeting there, as well as our monthly meetings. And we've also been approached by them. They've sent letters to everyone who lives at Rancho Mirage Country Club, inviting them to buy one of a few different kinds of memberships at the their Desert Island Country Club. We've also received a similar offer from the country club out in Indian Wells, Desert Horizons. So those are things that are happening. Some are good, most of them are with respect to where we live and what's going on are bad. And our lawsuit against the developers or the new owners is scheduled, and I was telling somebody earlier about this and how slow it goes, the wheels of justice, but our Superior Court date is estimated to be July, mid-June or July of 2017. So there's going to be a lot of unmowed dirt over at our place between now and then, and we hope that the city can see clear to come in. And I remember that Mr. Quintanilla said, I think at an August meeting, that what could happen is that the city could step forward and come in and make the abatements that need to be accomplished to restore the thing to at least minimum standards and make it so that it complies with the code. And if that were the case, what we would like to let you know is that we're having discussions amongst ourselves over there to work out the possibility of buying the golf course either out of a sheriff sale or from the owner or whomever will end up with it. Because I do have one question I'd like to ask, and that is, I know that the violations that Sandra Johnson wrote up, there were 14 of them, and that they start out at $100 per violation per day. And at the end of 30 days, I'm informed they go to $200 per violation per day. And at the end of that 30-day period, they go to $500 per violation per day. And I was just wondering if you could give us any ballpark figure of how much money you're entitled to receive, and if you have received any from the new owners over there that don't seem to be too interested in doing anything that's right. But anyway.
Well, just hang on one second, Stan. Does anybody have any answer to the question of whether or not there have been monies paid in by them?
She was sitting right behind me. I could have asked her.
None of the fines have been paid yet, and they don't accrue on a daily basis. The enforcement of the landscaping was suspended when we took on the enforcement of the fencing, because at that time the barrier prohibited us from going any further with the enforcement. Since that time, we have resumed enforcement with the landscaping, and they have been issued a second notice at the higher elevated fines. It is not a per day accrual, it's per occurrence. So once they don't comply, we'll go back out again, and if they're still in violation, then we'll start at the next step of the accrual rate.
And I can assure you that we're going to be imposing the maximum fines that we can impose.
Yes.
But I don't think it's the fines that's going to get them to comply. It's going to be the accumulated attorney's fees.
That's correct.
And we'll be able to recover all these fines and attorney's costs and staff costs in the end by recording a special assessment against the property that they had to pay along with their property taxes.
Now, at the Superior Court, Steve, in Palm Springs, where this case is being heard by Judge Lattig, he ordered them to restore the landscaping and to start watering. Well, their idea of restoration and watering are far different from what he wanted. They are turning on their sprinklers on a 90-second run and twice or three times a week. And 90 seconds is not enough to take care of all those dying trees and grass and everything else that the ground's all so hard it's like concrete now. So the water's just strictly pretty much running off. And we are embarrassed on account of the outside perimeter too, with the bad landscaping and everything else, and the ponds that they're the decorative ponds, which ultimately, if we own part of the place, we will apply for a desert tolerant thing and hopefully try to make it look somewhat similar to what Mr. Annenberg's doing on Bob Hope Drive, which is absolutely masterful. That's really an incredible example of what desert tolerance should be. And anyway, we're looking at right now home values. Since this company, Ojai Ranch is what they call themselves, since their LLC purchased our country club, the golf course and clubhouse and so forth, property values have dissipated about 50%, or maybe even more. And just to give you two examples, right after they bought, about maybe a month or 2 months after, they bought it in June, or they closed their purchase in June, and there was a home sold. Number 4 was the address on Cavendish Drive, and that home went on the market for $499. It was sold for $325, or $335, excuse me. Then later, as things got worse, there was a home, number 178, which is on Cavendish Drive South, which is the one street that kind of faces to the Eisenhower Medical Center. And that home was purchased in 2006 at a cost of $706,000. That home was sold at $325. And I mean, this is just an incredible loss of value that these homes are suffering, and it's the last thing that any of us ever expected to happen in Rancho Mirage, and I'm sure it surprises all of you as well. So we're hoping that we can continue our lawsuit. Like I say, we don't know what's going to happen with it, and the two guys that run this LLC named are Michael Schlesinger and Ronald Richards, and neither one of them have any of their own money at risk. The money that is there is what they duped the NHL hockey players who invested in their scheme that they were going to manage money for these guys, and a lot of them make 7 digits a year, these hockey players, and they washed them out in a development in Mexico, and they're stuck in a problem with Escondido Country Club over in San Diego County, and they've pretty much lost in a battle up in Las Vegas at a place called Silverstone. And the one thing that I've always told everybody here, and that's since I've lived in Rancho Mirage for the past 17 years, I had the opportunity to serve on the planning commission back when Randy was a planner before he owned the city, and anyway, I have always felt this way about this city, and I've always expressed this to people, this will be the downfall. Rancho Mirage will be the downfall of these guys, because they are messing around in a city that they don't know the capability of and how it will stand up for its residents. And so I want you to know that anything we can do as homeowners, or any work that we can provide that would help you, we are willing to do. And we look forward to working with you, and we'd like to thank all of you for taking the time to put up with all of this. Thanks.
Thank you, Stan. Any questions of Stan? Okay, thanks, Stan. Is there anybody else who would like to speak to a subject that is not on today's agenda? Seeing none, we'll close the non-agenda public comment portion and go to City Council board member comments. Charlie, let's start with you.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I do have a subject, and that is Modernism Week is coming to the Valley. Modernism Week attracts visitors from around the world to experience our region's significant collection of modernist structures. This year, the event will be held from February the 11th through the 21st. Rancho Mirage is supporting Modernism Week as a gold sponsor in order to share with the visiting scholars, architects, writers, collectors, and aficionados that Rancho Mirage is home to a remarkable collection of modernistic buildings. Our city is well represented in this year Modernism Week schedule. Sunnylands Tamarask Rancho designed by William Chrysler, William Cody Homes at Tamarask Country Club, and Eisenhower Medical Center will be featured on a Modernism Tour program that is available to you. On Tuesday, February the 16th from 2 to 4 p.m., our Historic Preservation Commission is presenting a forum on William F. Cody at the library, and change my page. That will be a panel of leading scholars. They will discuss Cody, whose work can be found in many parts of our town. Rancho Mirage is proud of its preservationist efforts and the rich collection of designated modern homes in our community. This year, thanks to the hard work of our commission, Modernist Week attendees should leave knowing that the Valley and Rancho Mirage is a significant modernistic designation. In addition, they should know that we are serious about preserving this aspect of our heritage here in Rancho Mirage. So, for further information, please visit the Modernism Week website at www.modernismweek.com or 760-799-9477. Thank you.
Thank you, Charlie. Ted?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. The last several weeks have been very momentous for the city. We've had the opening of two anchor tenants in two of our major areas. And I mention this because, as most of you know, that the revenue of our city is dependent upon sales tax and bed tax. And these two anchor tenants are very critical to the success of these developments. The first we have is the opening of CVS Pharmacy. Now, I compliment our building department, our inspectors who have done a great job working with the developer and CVS. In this particular case, CVS does their own interior, and the developer, of course, prepares the site. The new pharmacy turned out beautifully, well received, and now what will occur is that the existing CVS building will be demolished, that whole row, to make room for Hobby Lobby, which will start construction over the course of the next several months. So this was a major involvement at the Rancho Las Palmas Shopping Center, which is doing exceedingly well. The other major opening, which had obviously a very pent-up demand, is the Gelson's Market in the Rancho Mirage Marketplace, former home of Haddon, and before that, Pavilions. Again, this is another wonderful example of a new entity coming in. We're very familiar with Gelson's. Many of us that lived in LA that shopped there in the San Fernando Valley or Marina del Rey. They are a first-class entity. You'll find that their prices are competitive and their quality is extraordinary. So that was terrific. Any of you that were there for the groundbreaking know that the parking lot was absolutely overflowing, and their business is still doing exceedingly well and will continue to do so. And the last update is the Sunnylands landscaping that Stan Levinson made reference to, which is along Bob Hope here. It is coming along beautifully. They've done a magnificent job, as Sunnylands does. And of course, the whole idea is that this project will be completed by the time the president and his meetings with the other leaders of the Asian countries arrive. So that's what's been going on, an exciting period for our city that continues to prosper. And we're appreciative of the support that all of you give to these entities. Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor.
And thank you, Ted Iris. Richard?
Thank you, Dana, and good afternoon. Today is World Cancer Day, and this weekend the City of Rancho Mirage will be participating in the annual American Cancer Society Relay for Life at Rancho Mirage High School. That's this Saturday, February 6th. It'll begin at 9 a.m. and run through 9 p.m. This marks the 6th year for the relay in Rancho Mirage. The students and the committee are busy finalizing last-minute details, and so far have over 30 different teams participating in the event, and they've raised already $20,000. The City of Rancho Mirage has formed a team again this year, headed by Captain Sandra Johnson. Captain, okay. And Mim Gottschall. And I'll be in attendance, as will the city manager, Randy, and also the Director of Administrative Services, Isaiah Hegerman. So we'll be there to cheer on and participate in the event. So the activities will be held in the quad area at the school, located on the north side of the main administration building. And parking will be available at the north parking lot adjacent to the soccer practice field along Radler Road. So join us and celebrate and remember and fight back. And remember, this is this Saturday at 9 a.m. and we'll see you all there.
Thank you, Richard. Go
Dana,
Rattlers.
just got one more item. And last night, Sandra Johnson and I had an opportunity to attend the boys basketball game over at Rancho Mirage, and they were playing Desert Hot Springs. They won 80-39 in another close game. This was their 9th win in league play, and they have won 24 games this season with no losses. So it's really a great team. They've got 3 more league games to go, and then they'll go into the playoffs. But if you haven't seen the boys basketball team play, you've got to get over and see them. It's a great facility. It's a great team, and go Rattlers.
Richard, is it true that this June will be the first graduating class from Rancho Mirage High School?
Yes, this is the seniors' graduation. In fact, next Wednesday will be senior night at the school, and they'll be honoring all the basketball players who are seniors that'll be graduating this year.
That's great.
It's really exciting to see this team play because they are really good.
So the next basketball game is Wednesday, February 10th at 6 p.m. against Yucca Valley.
How'd you know that?
He's a man of wisdom.
Hey, Stan said I own the city, so I think the city owns me. It's the other way around, but anyhow, I knew that.
Okay, we'll move on now to the minutes of December 17, 2015. Is there a motion with respect to those minutes?
Second.
All approved, vote yes. All opposed, vote no.
Nope.
Did I hear somebody vote no?
Not showing up on.
Yeah, we're not getting it. Let's raise your, all in favor of the motion to approve the minutes, raise your hands. Motion passes unanimously. We have a motion with respect to January 14th special meeting.
So moved.
Moved and seconded. Raise your hand if you approve. Unanimous. We'll move on now to the consent calendar. And let's see if things are working or what isn't working. Are we okay?
The speakers are working okay.
Just the voting machine?
Yeah.
Let's try that. Everybody push a vote yes or vote no.
I vote no.
I voted no, but I was a pessimist. I'm going to become an optimist. I'm voting yes.
Nothing.
Optimism misplaced. Okay. Well, we'll take care of it on a physical, manual basis then. We'll move on to the consent calendar. I understand that item number 5 is to be tabled because it's not completed, and I'd like to pull items number 3 and 6. But Randy, where do we go with what is remaining?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Item number 1 is to waive reading of all ordinances in the agenda. Item number 2 is a second reading of an ordinance that implements new landscape and irrigation standards in response to the continued drought. Item number 4 is final acceptance of tract improvements at 36530. That's Sienna Vista, a small 5-acre tract on Victory Lane, east of Bob Hope Drive. There's 9 lots in there. 1 house is built already, and the other homes will be in the range from 3,100 to 4,100 square feet. So it's final acceptance for those improvements, both on-site private and off-site public improvements. Number 5, as the mayor mentioned, is tabled. Number 6 is pulled for a presentation from our Administrative Services Director. Item number 7 are contracts. There's 1 contract in there for a supplement and an extension. And item number 8 are demands. We're here to answer any questions.
Yeah, I would move that we table number 5. Is there a second? Please vote, unless somebody wishes to discuss it.
And Mr. Mayor, that is the basement restoration project, and it's not ready for final acceptance yet.
Thank you. Okay, all those in favor of tabling, raise your hand.
The voting machine's working now.
Beg your pardon?
It's working now.
Looks like it's working now.
Okay, then we'll vote. All in favor of tabling it, please vote yes. Opposed, vote no. Motion carries unanimously. Let's move on then to item number 3. Randy, who's giving that report? You, or is Randy Diego's giving it? I don't see Randy Diego.
Mark Zambito is going to give it,
Mark
our
will
Public Works Director. Thank you, Mark.
Okay, this is the dog park issue. I can only say that I remember back in 2002 when I was campaigning for the first time for high public office here in Rancho Mirage. One of my platform planks was to produce a dog park. Well, it's only taken 14 years, but it looks like we're on the way. Mark, what is this all about? What do we know so far?
Well, Mr. Mayor and honorable members of the council, it's my pleasure to bring before you tonight or this afternoon an item requesting approval of the award for construction of the Rancho Mirage Dog Park. The city received a number of bidders. The prices were fairly competitive and within our general cost estimate. The low bid and most responsible bidder was Clean Cut Landscaping. So this afternoon, we're asking you to award to them the amount of $1.3 million with a 10% contingency, and then the soft costs or support services of surveying and other ancillary tasks associated with the project for a total of $1.77 million. This project is fully funded and does not come out of the general fund. It is supported by other license tax, parkland, Quimby, and development fees. So it does not hit our general fund.
Mark, would you explain to the public a little bit about what the park is? We see that it's 4.04 acres. What else?
I'd be glad to do that, Mr. Mayor. I'm very proud to and excited about getting this park constructed. It is a 4.04 acres in total. We have 1 acre dedicated to large dogs and a ½ acre dedicated to small dogs. Both of the dog park areas include turf, shade structures, drinking fountains for both the people and our 4-legged friends. There will be a walking path that goes around the outside of it, 24 parking spaces, including 1 handicap stall. And I think that it'll turn out quite well. It'll be lit. And we're very excited for the opportunity to bring this to our residents here at Rancho Mirage.
Has the firm, this Clean Cut Landscape, have they done dog parks before?
I can't say that they have. I'm not sure of that. But one of the exciting things is the project manager, the gentleman who will be doing the construction, has a number of projects that he has done within the city of Rancho Mirage and some of our medians. And we were very, very pleased with the performance that he did then. So we have a very high expectation that this will continue to provide the high quality that the residents of Rancho Mirage typically expect from the Public Works Department.
Well, as you know, Mark, we're a little bit gun shy after the experience having to do with the theater at the park. It's taken a long time for that to get finished, a lot longer than anybody anticipated. And I'm just hoping that Clean Cut Landscape is committed to staying diligently progressing with this project until completed, and that it's anticipated that it'll be completed on time.
That is the case, Mr. Mayor, and I assure you that I will be intimately involved with this project throughout the entire construction period, as will the rest of the staff of Public Works. I know that we suffered a few bruises, if you would, on the construction of the park and the remodel therein, and we won't let you down. We have every reason to believe that this will be a very successful project and completed on time.
And if you'd keep me posted, I have promised to the one male dog that we have of our 3 dogs, I've promised him first shot at the first tree. And I'm hoping because I don't want to break my promise to my dog.
We certainly can make that happen, Mr. Mayor.
Great, thank you, and don't forget.
Dana, you will be so glad you waited 14 years.
Great, well, it sounds wonderful. Are there any questions of staff on this issue? Anybody in the audience like to comment or make it? Yes, sir.
What is the location of this?
The location is?
It is on the south side of Dinah Shore at Key Largo, adjacent to the Utilitarian Church.
If you think of the movie theater over there, behind it, so to speak.
It's land the city purchased some years ago and zoned for a park.
Mark, when do you expect these shoveled in the ground?
Well, if the council does decide today to award the contract, we will immediately begin working with the contractor to execute their typical construction contract with the city. And I know that we are working with our marketing department to put together a groundbreaking ceremony so we can get out there and get going right away. Time's of the essence, and we're not going to mess around on this one.
Thank you.
Okay, well.
Mr. Mayor, I believe there's another question.
Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't see you. Restate the question, please.
I will. The question was that I had made comment that there will be lighting at the park, and I believe the follow-up to that was what are the hours on the park? And I'll start in reverse order if you don't mind. The hours of the park will be the same as our community park, which I believe are sun up until about sundown. We haven't actually established the hours yet. It's one of those things, we're going to build it and then we'll figure out what's best for our community. But it will be lit, and what I mean by that is there will be light standards along the pathway to ensure safety for anyone who may be out there as the sun sets. We expected the project to take about 4 months to complete. We're expecting completion sometime in early July.
Are there any other questions from the audience?
Mr. Mayor, I think Chief Dan Talbot said he would donate a fire hydrant, and you can put it out there now for your male dog if you'd like, before the trees are installed.
That's just too much to hope for. We'll talk about that later. Okay, well, I would move that we award the contract for the Rancho Mirage Dog Park project to the lowest bidder, Clean Cut Landscape, in the amount of $1.302142.65 plus a 10% contingency and support services for a total of $1,773,405.
I'll second that.
Please vote. Motion carries unanimously. Hooray, hooray. Woof. Arf.
Congratulations.
Yeah, all right. Okay, we'll move on now to item, wait a second, let me go back to the consent agenda. Lose track here of it.
6.
Item number 6, is it?
Yes, Mr. Mayor, the quarterly treasurer's report. Isaiah Hagerman, can you make a brief presentation on this, please?
Yes. Thank you, Mr. Binder. Mr. Mayor, members of the City Council, this is your quarterly treasurer's report for the quarter ended December 31st, 2015. And the purpose of this report is to give the City Council an update on all monies that are overseen by the City Treasurer. The report, per our investment policy, is our return on investment is compared against a benchmark, which is noted on page 6-1. And if you notice, this benchmark, this is not yield, it's on a total return basis. And so if you want to find the yield or what we're earning on our portfolio, you would go to page 6-4. Page 6-4 in your staff report is actually the first page of the treasurer's report itself. And this first page is a summary report of each of the different classes of money that we are holding for each of the agencies that we represent. So the top part is the city's main operating portfolio, and our yield on that portfolio is 1.26%. And then we break out for the successor agency, the library foundation, and the assessment districts that we oversee. And then something that we added in our last quarterly report is on the very last page of the staff report, and that is page 6-9. And this is a standalone report for our library foundation, so the 501c3, and this breaks out how the library's foundation's cash is invested. So the majority of their money is within the city pool, and then they have one standalone investment. And I would be happy to answer any questions.
Can you tell me, tell us, please, if you could, Isaiah, is the 1.26, does that, going back a bit, does that reflect any change since the Fed increased the discount rate?
So, yeah, in order to take advantage of current market rates, we would have to buy an investment now. And when they raised the interest rate, that's why you were seeing the negative numbers on page 1, is as market conditions change, you value the investments that you're holding now compared to the current value in the market. So when they raised rates, all the investments that we had purchased prior to that got devalued. We're still going to earn the same yield that we were always going to earn on those investments. It's just a way to look at your portfolio to say, how have we done on our purchases? So anytime the investment or the Fed raises rates, obviously that's going to have a negative impact on what you're holding right now from a market standpoint.
Does anybody have any questions of Isaiah?
No, actually, that rate that was raised by the Fed didn't raise rates. It ended up bringing rates down. So we should see a better value next month or the month after that.
Yeah, it actually, so in December, you saw expectations go up a little bit, which got captured in the December report, and then they started trailing back down again.
Well, we're used to going down. It's the nature of things. Anybody in the audience like to raise any issue or question regarding this issue? Seeing none, we'll close it. Can we have a motion, please, to approve item number 6?
So moved.
Please vote. Motion carries unanimously. We'll now move on to reports and informational items. Item number 9, CV Link update. Is there anybody in the audience who would like to address that subject? Yes, ma'am. Go up to the microphone, please.
Is it on? We just found out recently that they're rerouting, I guess, this CV link. We originally thought many months ago that it was going to come through Thunderbird and down the wash, and that wasn't going to happen. That was all kind of tossed aside. And only yesterday found out that apparently this is still in the works. We want to know what we live on Country Club near Thunderbird. We want to know what we can do in our area how the city council, if anyone is supporting it, and what do we do and what do we recommend to our friends and our neighbors, how we can get involved to oppose this for many reasons, but the first one because of a financial standpoint. The state of California is broke. I think this is an absurd waste of money, but we want to know, how do we get involved to help stop this? I understand it's going to go on the ballot. We want to know what we tell our friends. Is it yes, no, no, no? You know, they write those very confusing to confuse voters oftentimes. We're kind of just shocked that it's actually, they're thinking of bringing it through Rancho Mirage. We want to know what we can do to help stop this. And my understanding is the Desert Sun is supportive of it, and they've been promoting aggressive language against you for your opposition to it. Will they then, do we have to look to them to support it all the way and not show the other side of how this will affect our communities and our area?
Well, to answer the latter question first, I don't think anybody is going to be telling the Desert Sun what to do or how to do it. And my suspicion is that if we tried, it would produce nothing of value to us. So the newspaper is the newspaper, but that's not an untraditional position for newspapers to take, something that may be in opposition to a good number of residents themselves. With respect to the support and opposition, yes, there is an organization that has just begun. I think you have my email address, because I recognize
thank you, by the way.
name. Yes. My request to you would be this: send me an email, gdanahobart@aol.com. Send me an email letting me know of your interest. I will put you in contact with the group that is beginning to put some muscle behind the opposition. And with respect to the status, let me say simply that it is CVAG's position, by CVAG, Coachella Valley Association of Governments, it is their position that they are going to move forward with an environmental impact study of Highway 111, and that they fully intend that if they ever secure 3 votes on the city council, that is their intention to, at that point in time, produce the environmental impact report that'll come from this study, no matter when it might be, and that they will then try to implement a program where the CV link does come down Highway 111, starting at Parkview on just at the border with Palm Desert. I'll tell you what the route is that they're proposing, if you could just picture it in your mind. At Parkview on 111, head west to Bob Hope, make a right turn, come down Bob Hope past the river and past Rancho Las Palmas or Omni Hotel and all of that. Make a left at Rancho Las Palmas to the first street via
San Jacinto.
What is it? San Jacinto. Make a right on San Jacinto. It goes past a number of homes and businesses. It eventually comes out again at 111. At 111 to continue west on Highway 111, one side of the street or the other, down to Country Club, including in front of our fire station, and all of the entrances into the Thunderbird properties along Highway 111. At Country Club, make a right turn, go approximately one short block to the Butler Abrams Trail, and then left or south, or north, I should say, north and west on the Butler Abrams Trail, where it will connect just east of Frank Sinatra at the wash with Cathedral City. That is their current program, and in my view, that has been their program from day one. We have maps and
yeah, I would like to get one. I read in the newspaper that the trail was proposed to the city council or the city, and they said no. So that's not the case. Is that correct?
No, we have, the Butler Abrams Trail is, as a matter of fact, in the appendices to the master plan. The Butler Abrams Trail is listed as being extremely sensitive as an equestrian trail, in part, and it is recommended in their own document, in case they haven't read it. It recommends that the Butler Abrams Trail be avoided by CV Link. So maybe if they read it, they've got it published in both the new general plan, which is dated January 2016. The most recent prior general plan was March of 2015. And in both of them, they indicate that the Butler Abrams Trail has the sensitivity because of equestrian use of it. So, but that is their plan at the moment, and that's what they want, and that's what they're not going to get. We have Measure 1 that'll be on the ballot. Measure 1 will put in cement their inability to get it without first securing a vote of a majority of the voters at a public election in Rancho Mirage. So it won't even be up. If Measure 1 passes, it won't even be up to the city council to make the decision. It'll be a decision for the people of Rancho Mirage to make a decision as to whether or not the CV Link is going to be able to follow the route that they would like to follow. I might point out also that that Highway 111 route contains 6 separate at-grade crossings of Highway 111. That's signalized changes, crossings of the highway. And the city of Rancho Mirage over the past 10 or 15, 20 years at the most, has spent over $700,000 putting together a synchronization program for our own traffic signals. And if you can imagine the CV Link with people, electric vehicles, bicyclists, pedestrians, and so forth, coming to 6 separate crossings that they're going to have to be pushing the button on to cross. It's going to be disastrous for Rancho Mirage business and residential efforts to be someplace on time, do something promptly. So anyway, that's kind of a quick summary of your question. And in a few moments, I'm going to add a few more comments that you might want to stay and listen to.
And where do we find out how each city council member stands on the?
Well, all 5 of our city council voted unanimously for stopping the CV Link where it is. Okay. All 5 voted unanimously to put on the agenda for the election Measure 1. Measure 1 is not an advisory vote. The other 3 are. So Measure 1 is the one that has meat for Rancho Mirage. Okay. And the council is recommending, each person individually is recommending a yes vote on Measure 1. And that will then mean that there won't be any change in policy without first obtaining a vote of the people as compared to a vote of some later designated council.
Okay. Okay. Thank you so much. I appreciate it. I'm going to contact Roger.
Thank you. Is there anybody else who'd like to address this subject? Seeing none, we'll close the public portion of the CV Link discussion. I would like to point out some things that are kind of new and some things that have only been touched on lightly. It has been common to hear various people who support the CV Link, including mayors, including the leadership of CVAG, use the expressions, this is free money coming into the valley, and if we don't use it, we'll lose it. Want to make sure that Ms. Felci gets that sentence down correct. If we don't use it, we lose it. That's been said by people on the pro-CV Link side. The statement is not accurate. There's a lot of ways of saying it's not accurate. I'll just simply leave it with it's not accurate. At a meeting not long ago, Isaiah Hagerman, our finance director, among other titles, put on the screen something he's going to put up there again now. This is the current CV Link funding sources. Now keep in mind what the subject that I'm talking about is their statement that if we don't spend this grant money, and that's in quotes, or gifts, that we will lose it. As you can see from this chart that we have here, of the $75 million plus that is claimed to have been raised to fund this project, $62 million of it would stay in the Coachella Valley regardless of the CV Link. In other words, those funds that are shown above would all stay in the valley, 82%. So when they say if we don't use it, we'll lose it, we might lose 18%, of which that 18%, over $1 million, has already been spent in the valley on the CV Link, and the others probably would stay there, some of them anyway. But let's just for a moment talk about whether or not they've raised $75 million thus far. You'll notice that the first item shows Measure A funds. Measure A funds, as we've said previously, are funds that were voted by the public to increase our sales tax by 1/2 cent back in 2002. That's not money you raise, that's money they claim they can take out of that Measure A fund. Our Measure A funds earn, we receive, CVAG receives about $19 million at the present time in a year's worth of our share of that income tax, or that sales tax income. So they are planning on taking from Measure A funds $20 million over a year's worth of Measure A funds. They can't claim to have raised it because that would have to be approved by RCTC, Riverside County Transportation Commission, for them to do that. There's a strong argument that it's not legal, but that's not to be addressed at this moment in time. On the legality point, the City of Rancho Mirage introduced a motion to the Executive Committee of CVAG back in around June, and that motion was essentially that to determine if it is legal or not to take $20 million of roadway repair funds, which is exactly what they were designated as by the voters, to take $20 million of roadway repair funds and use it for a bike path, an electric vehicle path, and a pedestrian path. Nothing for automobiles. We believe it's illegal. But under any circumstances, it can't be said that they've raised it, and it certainly can't be said that they can spend it yet. The second item you see there, the Federal Congestion Air Quality, CMAQ, that is not a grant either. That is money that the federal government, from time to time, gives to states that have particular air quality problems, and gives money to the state for efforts to reduce pollution in the air. The state distributes it among counties. The county of Riverside received a chunk of money of that federal funding. Could be used for anything having to do with preservation of our air or cleaning our air. Probably the last thing you would pick would be the CV Link, because the CV Link isn't going to have any effect on our air. If ever, it won't happen until after it's finished. And that is 7 to 10 years away. Maybe 5, I don't know. I don't want to misstate something and have the number picked on, but that's a number of years away. It's not a grant, it's money that the federal government puts out. Now, how did CVAG and CV Link end up getting that $12,600,000? Simply by an agreement that the leadership of CVAG talked to the leadership of RCTC, which is the parent organization of CVAG. Riverside County Transportation Commission is the one that receives these funds having to do with transportation issues. So they're the ones that got the funds from the state having got it from the federal government. Now RCTC says, hey, look, we've got a bundle of money here. I don't know what the total amount was, but where does it get distributed? CV Link and CVAG said, well, listen, give us some, we want it. And so RCTC said, okay, we'll designate $12.6 million to you. All an insider's deal. Insiders controlling that. Think of all the other uses that could be made with that money, and it's just going to sit there unused until such time as CVAG has constructed the CV Link. So that's not a grant. That's taking of money because politically they could do it. Let's move on to the next one. State Transportation Improvement Program, STIP. $2 million. Well, that was a nice thing to call a grant, but it was not, well, in a sense, we'll call that one a grant rather than getting too technical on it. However, League of California Cities sent out a document dated February 1 of this year, and I'll read from it rather than showing it to us since we have the chart on the screen. Actually, it's dated January 26, 2016. First paragraph. The California Transportation Commission on January 22 took action that approved a drastically reduced estimate of available funding for California's State Transportation Improvement Program, STIP, in the next 5 years. So what happened, that sentence can be stated differently. Because of the horrible condition of our roadways throughout the state of California, through the California Transportation Commission, has withdrawn money that it had previously designated for various uses toward cleaning the air and improving our roadways, not all of it having to do with roadways. The next paragraph, the action slashes estimated funding by $754 million, a hit that comes as California's state and local street, road, and highway system is already crumbling under inadequate funding. Think of what that sentence just said. The state slashes $754 million, a hit that comes as California's state and local street, road, and highway system is already crumbling under inadequate funding. We in Riverside County, however, are saying, we don't care what our roadways are like. We're saying, let's give this money to CV Link and build this bike path and electric vehicle path, regardless of the need for this money to go into our roads. But the state, on that $2 million grant, has pulled it back. One paragraph down below says the reduction of the STIP will require CTC to rescind funding previously committed. And it's my understanding that among that previously committed funding is this $2 million that now would reduce the total amount that they claim to have, quote, raised, end quote, from $75 million to $73 million. Number 4, Desert Healthcare District, $10 million. They haven't given $10 million at all. There are a bunch of contingencies that the Desert Healthcare District is requiring before they give that money, and there's a good chance that money will never be given by them because the conditions will never be met. And there's a lot of hassle about that. But where does Desert Healthcare District get their money? They get it from our property taxes. Rancho Mirage's property taxes, all the cities all the way over to Indian Wells, I think it is, maybe Indio. Which one? Palm Springs to what?
It's the Desert Healthcare District boundary, so that includes Desert Hot Springs, Palm Springs, Cathedral City, Rancho Mirage, and parts of Palm Desert.
Okay, so part of Palm Desert. It goes as far east as Palm Desert. So that money, by their charter, is required to be spent in their district. So to say use it or you lose it is a total misstatement, inaccurate statement, because they could use it for anything within their district. And it's, right, the district is here in the valley. The Air Quality Mitigation District, $17,400,000. The reason that money came to us is because they built that energy plant, the peaker plant, over just outside of Desert Hot Springs, which frankly, Desert Hot Springs is the one that probably should have got it all, or darn near all of it. But instead, we who are building a bike path and an electric vehicle path ended up getting 17 million of it. Bottom line is that money would be spent in the valley. We would not lose it if we didn't use it on this project. So you can see on the rest of the chart, the only other major one that means anything is the California Active Transportation Act, and that is an act that that money could still stay here, but it's not money that we can say with assuredness that it would stay here. So it's in the category of those that would leave. But 82%, despite everything that's been said by them, use it or lose it, 82% of it wouldn't be lost. Keep in mind that now that they've only raised, and I use the word raised very loosely because taking Measure A funds is not raising it, it's swiping it, in my view. They're down to 73 million. And keep this in mind as well. They haven't raised anything for about a year and a half thus far. And they want to start building as soon as they can on the assumption that the money will come if we build it. Well, I think it's bad planning to say you can build a project such as this without there being full funding or committed full funding for the project. And they are not even close to it. In fact, we now see they're headed in the opposite direction. Also, there's a dispute going on over at Desert Healthcare. There are people over there that don't want that money spent on something that they see is as inapplicable to their charter, that is for promoting health and sort of things here in the valley. They think they can do much more with that money, and certainly far sooner. At any rate, you can take that off the right now. I wanted to let me just repeat with respect to no, I'll skip that. Let me save some time. They've just come out. CVAG has just published a new master plan dated January of 2016. They were recommending approval of the March 2015 master plan. Tom Kirk recommended approval of it back in April. But that was about the time that we all got started here in Rancho Mirage, challenging and pointing the finger to many aspects of the CV link. And the things that we pointed to, now we have a new master plan that has addressed some of that, not much of it. But for example, on page 15 in the old master plan, it said in capital letters, no local funding will be required for operations and maintenance expenses. Keep in mind, they projected 1.6 million in operational and maintenance expenses. 1.6 million. And they were telling everybody for the however many years before that CV Link was in existence, going back to 2011, 2012, when they changed the name from its prior name. At any rate, they don't have that sentence in the new one. But the method of payment, how are they going to raise this 1.6 million? That still is unanswered, but the answer is they have the same dilemma now that they had in the March 2015 master plan. I have here a copy of the operational funding page of the new master plan, and I'm sure they'll probably end up changing some of it once I comment on it again. But in looking at Table 19, for those of you who want to go to their website, take a look at the new master plan, go to Table 19 on page 154 of that master plan, and they'll see that they're still planning on rating the Measure A funds. The fifth item down, fourth item down, says Measure A, the agency to take the money, CVAG, and it remarks a portion of existing 0.5% sales tax. They're planning on using our road repair funds. That just a moment ago, I was reading a document that is saying the state is cutting back from any other use of the money that they have used for road repairs and transportation issues. They're cutting back from giving it a widespread to include something like a bike path, electric vehicle path. They're calling that back. So there's nothing on this list of any significance as to how they're going to raise the money, but the three main things that I see, it says Measure A, private donations, that's a joke. They've had like one, I think, so far, maybe two. Let me look at this list so I don't misstate something because it'll be the headline tomorrow. Caltrans, Cathedral City, Riverside County Council. The only even it's not a private donation, is Desert Healthcare. I'm not sure, maybe it's a private. So, but they do have transient tax. They have Measure A and transient tax. In April of last year, that's when Mr. Kirk, the executive director, wrote a report where he recommended a transient occupancy tax be taken from the cities. And essentially, his program was 5 cities would pay 90% of the cost of operations and maintenance. 5 cities, Rancho Mirage being 3rd or 4th on that list. That's still on their plan, apparently, because it's listed that they are intending that to be part of the summary of operations and maintenance funding sources. There's nothing else on there. Volunteers, they're talking about using volunteers for in-kind services. Great, and I hope they have plenty of volunteers, but you don't run an operation like this with volunteers. At any rate, they still have no idea how they're going to pay for it. As far as operations and maintenance are concerned, they haven't announced a dime raised new for construction since over a year and a half, I mean. So let's move on then to the last part of what I wanted to comment about. I wanted to talk about the ballot measures that we have. I'm sure they'll be vigorously contested, and that's the way it should be in a democratic society. Measure 4 is an advisory measure, and that measure asks for the input from the public regarding the use of Measure A funds for using up to $20 million of Measure A funds to pay for part of the construction costs. And our people are going to be asked to vote on it. I think all of us on the council, in fact, I'm sure all of us on the council have recommended a no vote under the way the measure is written, that we do not recommend using up to $20 million of Measure A funds. The Measure 3 before that one says that if the CV Link were to be constructed, would you approve of us paying as our share of operations and maintenance between $110,000 and $251,000 in the 9th year, with the graduating TOT bed tax getting up to that point? And just in case anybody thinks I'm making up those numbers, I'd like to show you the chart. You won't be able to read it, but this is the chart on page 6 of a staff report written by Tom Kirk, and the title of the staff report says, "Recommendation: Approve an agreement to establish and fund CV Link Operations and Maintenance Fund." And then he talks about his bed tax plan, this 8% plan, 8% increasing year after year in relationship to a base year of 2016. A lot of numbers, but these are his numbers. Actually, they're incorrect. They're on the low side because they didn't take into consideration the Ritz-Carlton, but we're not even challenging that. We're making our point using his numbers, which are lower than actual. But in the 9th year, it will have started in the first year at 28,000, strike that, 22,000 in the first year, increasing under this formula that he laid out in this booklet. And when you get to the 9th year, the amount we would pay would be between $111,000 on the low side and $251,000 on the high side. That's year 9. Year 10 will just be more. Year 11 just be more. So the measure asks, if it were constructed, despite our opposition to it, would you want the city to join into it if you had to share between $110,000 and $251,000 as of the 9th year, continuing to increase thereafter? Would you buy into that and pay that kind of money to have access to the CV Link? Again, we recommended a no vote. Again, it's just advisory. And then the Measure 2 says, do you approve of CVAG spending $100 million or more to construct the CV Link plus an additional $1.6 million annually to operate and maintain the project? Again, a yes or no. We recommended no. But the one measure that really means something to Rancho Mirage residents, and this I cannot emphasize enough. For the people who are watching this on television, I would ask you to listen very carefully, because you are the voters in our city, and only registered voters will be able to vote on this question. But this question in Measure 1 says, shall the city of Rancho Mirage require that any future amendment or repeal of the ordinance that we currently have in place, which blocks CV Link from coming into our city, to repeal or amend that, should it first require a vote of the public rather than a vote of the city council? In other words, a future city council couldn't change it, that ordinance, without first securing approval by a majority of the vote of the public in a regular election or a special election. And if you want to protect the city from the CV Link, vote yes on Measure 1. It's important to know that Measure 1 is a yes, and the other 3 measures we're recommending a no. Makes it confusing. So don't be confused. If you have a question, contact any of us. But it's important that you understand that that is the measure that will prevent CV Link from getting 3 votes on the city council to reverse the ordinance that we already have placed just a couple of months ago, to reverse that it can't be done with 3 votes. It first has to have a vote of the public approving a change in that law. So that's the bottom line of what I wanted to say today on this subject. Is there any other member of the council that would like to discuss this subject? Seeing none? Okay, we'll move on then to the next item on the agenda, which is item number 10, a presentation by Dr. David Tang from Eisenhower.
Good afternoon, Mr. Mayor.
Good afternoon, Doctor.
City Council members. Thank you for the opportunity of addressing you. I am actually representing Eisenhower Medical Center as an investigator in a research program there. And I'm here today. I've been going around the valley to city council meetings doing 3-minute public comments, and I asked to do a presentation here today because it's, number one, you're our home city where the hospital is. And I wanted to give the council members a chance to ask any questions if they had about this study that we're doing.
And part of your comments, I hope, will answer this question for those of us who are not sure exactly what exsanguination means.
Exsanguination is an unfortunate term. It usually has a negative connotation because you hear about people exsanguinating on the floor, which means that they bled to death.
Sounds horrible.
It does. The reason that term actually was picked is that this device that we're using is FDA approved to, quote, exsanguinate the leg. And by removing the blood from the leg, it allows you to do surgery on a leg with no bleeding. This is a concept that's been around for 100 years. And ever since I was a medical student, we used to do this where the medical student had to hold the leg up in the operating room while somebody started wrapping it down from the toes down to the thigh using an elastic ACE wrap type of dressing. And when we did that, we squeezed all the blood out of the leg, and then we blew up a pneumatic tourniquet around it, lay the leg down, unwrap it, and then we can scrub it up and operate on it, and there's no bleeding because we've removed all the blood from the leg. That's an advantage to an orthopedic surgeon, but it's a concept that sort of was missed by the rest of the medical brethren, which is I need that blood out of the leg for a period of time so that I can resuscitate a person. Like when I have a person who's in shock, hemorrhagic shock, or any kind of shock, I need to transfuse them with blood. Sometimes I go to a blood bank to get it, but in this case, every person is carrying around his own blood bank because we can borrow that blood from your leg for up to 2 hours with 0 complications, and that's done in orthopedic surgery all the time. The difference here is I'm doing it on people in shock. And when I went to the FDA and said, listen, we want to do this on people, and it's the same as the orthopedics, they said, well, it's different because you're not doing it on, quote, healthy people in the OR, you're doing it on people in shock. So I have to prove that, one, is that it works, and 2, that it's safe. So I started using it off-label, and it showed that, yes, actually it works. It's a home run. And I have a series of 32 patients that I've used this on that have all done very well. We don't actually need to get permission to do that to save somebody's life because it's an off-label use of a device that's already approved. What's happening now is we have residency at Eisenhower, and as part of that commitment to academic excellence, we need to do research, medical research. And this is the first of a series of research projects that we're going to be doing. I got this one approved by the FDA about 1.5 years ago. And when I was doing it, one of the basic premises of any research that you do in this country is that you get permission from the person to be researched upon. In other words, anybody who participates has the right in this country to say yes or no, I want to be a part of it or I don't. And that's a principle that goes back to 1976 after a whole lot of abuses earlier in the century where research was done without people's permission. So it's a basic premise now is that you have to get permission. Unfortunately, with this type of patient who maybe is in shock or unconscious or nearly dead, I can't get permission from them. And our window of opportunity to actually use them in this study is very narrow. It's seconds to minutes. So after failing to be able to use about 4 patients in the study, I went back to the FDA and have applied to get what's called a consent waiver. That means that due to the emergency circumstances, I'm going to go ahead and enter them into a study, and then if they live, if they survive, they can always withdraw their permission to be in the study at a later time. Now, the point is that we're not actually asking them to use a device on them. We're actually asking to use their biographical data in a study. So they can always come back in the end and say, no, I don't want you to use my anonymous data in the study, and we'll take them out. But the FDA has approved me to gather 47 cases that would be statistically significant. And what I wanted to do to tell you about this was part of our commitment to the FDA is that we have to go to the community at large, all the communities that would funnel cases into our hospital, including the EMS agencies, and tell them about this study that we're doing and see if anybody has any comments or protests, and particularly the citizens of Rancho Mirage. This is where your hospital is. This is the device. And by the way, there's 5 magazines I wanted to hand out to you that are put out by Eisenhower in January. It's the Healthy Living magazine. And on page 14 of this magazine, if anybody watching has it, there's an article about soliciting public comment on this study. And there's a number that you can call to talk to somebody. There's also an email address where you can make comments. And all of those are available for any period of time in the future. For this month and a half, we're waiting for the FDA to approve this. We're here to answer any questions about that. And I have a copy
Would
for
you
each
want
one.
to state the phone numbers for people that are listening or watching?
Yeah, I
watching this
can.
later?
The phone number for comments or questions is 760-568-1234. Or you can send an email to tellus at emc.org. That's TELLUS at emc.org. I have a copy for each of the council members and a copy for the clerk. If you have any questions, this is actually what the device looks like. Again, this is already approved. It's used in orthopedics. What this does, what it has inside of it is a silicone ring that's wrapped up, and when you roll this over the toes and pull the handles and roll it up the leg, it essentially moves all the blood out of the leg and then tourniquets the leg to prevent it from going back under. So when you do that, you're moving blood into the core so that I can use that to resuscitate somebody. And also I'm making the whole box smaller. In other words, I'm not wasting any perfusion on the legs because I want it to go to the heart and the lungs and the kidneys and the bowel and the vital organs.
Does the blood that's been removed continue circulating in the body?
The blood that's moved into the core is then circulating to the vital organs. And when we remove or roll this down later after we've resuscitated you, maybe I've transfused you by then by taking you to the OR and stop the bleeding, things like that, I can bring it down gradually with no harm at all to the leg. So I'm essentially borrowing the blood for a short period of time. And it's the perfect transfusion because it's the right temperature, it has clotting factors, it's your own blood. So it's not unlike we borrow water from the aquifer in the hard times and then the rain fills it back up in the winter. It's the same kind of concept, borrowing the blood. So that's what's happening. Then the big issue here is that we're going to move to a no consent. We are actually going to try and get consent, but if you come in shock, you can't give consent, I'm going to resuscitate you, I'm going to enter you in the study, and afterwards, when you wake up, I'm going to say, hey, can we use your numbers in the study? And you'll still have the opportunity to say no. Okay?
That's the kind of opportunities my wife gives me. You want me to buy that dress? No, I already bought it. Oh, yeah.
So anyway, I'm not asking really for you to approve anything. I'm really putting this out there for your knowledge. If you have any questions about it, I'm happy to answer them. And you can certainly send us emails later if you have questions about it.
Has there anybody that you have used this process on that afterwards, I presume obviously it was successful, who said, no, I don't want to be part of the study?
No, because the people that I was using it on, they weren't in a study. You know, the study requires me to get consent. And out of the, I think, 4 patients who qualified to be in the study, I could only get consent from 1 who said, sure, it's fine. The others weren't able to get it, so they couldn't be in the study. Now, there are other people that I resuscitated with this. Being in a study wasn't really an issue, but they were happy to be alive.
Can you go back to them and get an endorsement of any kind?
No, FDA forbids that. That's called a retrograde consent. And, it's a violation of their principle.
Gotcha. Thank you.
Well, thank you, Doctor, very
Thank you.
much.
Thank you
Hopefully
for your
nobody
time.
here will need it, nor anyone who is watching this, but just in case if they do.
Great, thank you.
We know it's there.
I need it.
When we cut off your neck, we can drain the blood. Okay. Well, that ends the initial portion of our regular agenda. We'll move into closed session as soon
Excuse
as
me, Mayor.
our
Excuse
city
me.
manager.
I have a question.
You have a question?
Yes, could we get a motion to approve the items on the consent calendar that weren't
I'm not
pulled?
hearing you. Can you speak in?
Yes, I need to have a motion for items 1, 2, 4, 7, and 8 on the consent calendar.
Oh, okay. Also move approval of those items. Is there a second? Please vote. Motion carries unanimously. We've covered that loose end. Thank you very much, Cindy, for bringing that to our attention. I see a lot of grays, 2 reds, and a black. I think that amounts to a unanimous vote nonetheless. Yes, everybody's nodding yes. So we'll move on now with the presentation of what we will be viewing in closed session or hearing.
Mr. Mayor, the City Council is going to recess into closed session pursuant to Government Code Section 54956.9 regarding 3 potential litigation items and the case known as Veronica Juarez versus City of Rancho Mirage.
Okay, we stand in recess.